Nathan Cox, thanks for joining us around the home. Okay, today I'm going to be fixing, or replacing, I should say, my damaged spring on my garage door, all right? So first things first is you really should tell your garage door to break down when the weather's nicer, right? Be a little more considerate of other people. It's a little cold today, okay? They never break down when it's convenient. All right, so if you're wondering, well, how do I even know mine's broken? Well, you probably try to open your garage door and then the chain, you know, up here got like super tight, almost like a torqued the bar, you know, and then it only goes up a couple inches and then goes back down. And a lot of times it won't be flashing the light, but you'll know right away when you see a big crack in the spring, a big hole there, okay? Those things hold a ton of weight. So you're probably wondering what this green thing is. Well, that's actually a drywall lift for walls, not for ceilings, for walls, which I happen to have. You're probably, what for? Okay, I've got a video on assembly of that and some other stuff. But these doors are heavy. These are the double paned insulated doors for a double garage door, and there's no really handles here on the inside. So me and my son are trying to get this thing lifted to get my wife's car out of the way so we can even do these repairs, because normally, you know, she was parked in here. I came out to open the garage door and boom, right, stuck. Okay, now some of the things we're going to need to get started. Okay, now I do have a ratchet here, 3/8 ratchet, and I've got a 7/16 socket on it. Okay, now the locking bolts on these bars are weird. They're a 4-sided headed bolt. So your standard 6-point socket, which is what most people use, won't work. So there's a 12-point socket. So we get the camera to focus on the socket, not me. Okay, so it's this will actually lock onto it. If not, you just need like a wrench. Find the right wrench that'll fit it tight, the open end. I don't really know why they do that. They just do, okay? And I got a couple of steel bars here, which I just happen to have in my garage. These are 1/2-inch steel bars. They're, you know, you got your tension bars. If you buy these new springs online, a lot of times they'll give you bars to do this with. I'm gonna actually take this down and take it to a local garage door supply place and get new springs today and get them back on. It's also the best way to match up your spring so that you get the exact right one, you know, for your door. So you get the one that matches the one that they originally installed it with, and not something that's like too weak or something like that, okay? So you need some tools and also a pair of vice grips. And I'll show you, it'll help to keep this bar from falling out and hitting the ground and making a bigger mess. So anyways, we're starting off with this. Okay, so we're starting off on the not broken side. Okay, this side is not broken, but it still has a lot of tension here. So we got to release that tension. So we got our ratchet ready. Then we need to have a bar ready, okay? Because if we just let this thing loose without holding it, it's gonna fly, okay? So bad situation there. So make sure I'm holding that good. And I'm going to release one of these bolts. Okay, you don't have to take it out, just loosen it up. All right, and the second one. Okay, now when you're doing this here, it's really not hard to do, you just have to have patience. You don't want to try to skip any holes, so we're just going to do it a 1/4 turn at a time. Make sure your turning rods are in the holes all the way before you release the next one. Okay, you can see on the spring here, they got a line painted across it, you know, and that's at a relaxed position for the spring, okay? So when you get this guy down like this, it's safe to take the bars out and move to the next step. Okay, and you can see that I've already pulled the little release bar for the garage door opener and slid it back out of the way. So that's not in the way. I think that's something you should do right off the bat. Now, yours might be a little bit different, but this is 9/16 here, so we're gonna release just the center mount here for the springs. All right, now it's at this point here, we're gonna use our vice grips, locking them here to keep this torsion bar from accidentally falling out. Just a little tip there. Now that the spring is loose, we really need to, you know, knock it down the torsion bar just a little bit. And mine, when I got installed, I guess they kind of crimped it a little bit, so it's really having a hard time. I can't just push it. So if you take one of your bars, stick it in, make sure it's in all the way with a rubber mallet, you can knock it past that place if they crimped it in a little bit. Yeah. All right. Now we need to loosen the broken spring and do the same thing over there. Okay, so now we're here at the drum or the roller, the pulley, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to release the bolts on this as well. All right, so this one wants to slide real good. That's nice. We got to take the little cable, pull it out, and we're just going to kind of wrap it up on the side here so it doesn't fall, get lost. That's good enough. And then just go do the same to the other side. All right, at this point here, we're going to get ready to pull the spring out. So you want to take your bar here and just slide it over to the side. There we go. All right. Sliding the little drum off, the little roller there. Now the spring. Now for those of you who are going to get their parts locally, now's the time to take your spring on down to your local garage door supply company and get it matched up so you get the same one, all right? Now you can save a little bit of money and just buy the one side spring. Taking it down to them will help them know whether it's the right side or left side, right? Because it does matter. They are wound opposite of each other. And but I'm gonna probably go ahead and buy both new springs because my house is like, I don't know, like 16 years old, and it's probably just a matter of time before the other one snaps as well. So anyways, I'll see you in a minute. Okay, I just got back from the garage door supply company and got myself a new pair of springs. And I tell you what, if you don't take a moment and do something like this, then you're missing out, because this is kind of fun. Now do pay attention to how this came off, and I would recommend only doing one at a time so you don't mix them up, because there is a right one and a left one, okay? So here on the right side, you know, I've got the black marked one here. So let's stick it back on. Okay, then we'll take the drum and stick that back on, and then just slide the pole back. Okay, so now it's time to reattach the springs here at the center. And this little plastic cap here actually helps to keep the torsion bar in the center bracket, so it actually wouldn't hurt to, when you get your springs replaced, to put a new one of those in. I didn't think about that earlier, but it wouldn't hurt. Helps just to keep it centered in there. All right, and one way to double check to make sure you got the springs on the right side, you know, especially in case they mismarked them by accident, is that these springs here where they end, they should be coming from the top and coming out pointing at you, not coming from the bottom side. So they should be coming from the top on down at you, so we're good to go here. And my ends are kind of catching where they dented it in a little bit. So I'm gonna see if I can do this. I might have to pound one of them in. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that. Let's put the vice grips back in place so it doesn't fall off. All right, so we're gonna make sure this one's in the plastic sleeve, and the plastic sleeve is in the groove here. There we go. So everything should clamp down here nice and tight, and you can take that torsion bar and turn it and listen for any scraping here to make sure that it is centered and everything's moving smoothly. Which sounds like we're good to go to the next step. All right, now I just took another minute to recenter the torsion bar here. Again, where they screw these in too tight and dented it, it makes it hard to work with, okay? At this point here, it's time to start the cranking. All right, so we're gonna put some tape on here so we can keep track. All right, now the spring, you can't see it quite so much, but the spring is going this way, it stops here. It's pointing that way, and that's why we're gonna be turning it. And depending on who you talk to, now this is a standard 7-foot door, it's 4 panels, very standard garage. On one of these doors here, we're gonna do 8 full turns or 32 quarter turns. Quarter turn is every single one of these holes for your turning bars, okay? So however, which way you wanna count it. I'm gonna go with 8 full turns, okay? And then when we get there, well, let's just get there. We wait to get there. I have to be honest, my mind wanders when I'm doing stuff like this. It seems so tedious, and you think counting to 8 is easy, but I start going off and I'm like, wait a second, did I count 5 twice? So it doesn't hurt to put little marks over here as you're going, especially if you're doing the full turns. That makes it much easier, just so you don't accidentally get this wrong, because you really want the tension on both these springs to be very close to each other, very spot on. Okay, now when you go to tighten these down, first just snug them up and then do like another 3/4 of a turn. You don't have to break the pipe. Okay, now with that bar still staying in place, locking that spring, we're gonna go over here and throw the little latch on the garage door. Okay, now before we go any further and mess with the other spring, we gotta get the drums in place and lock it all together. All right, so after you grab the cable here, grab your drum, and it should be pretty obvious which way it's gonna roll, because after the slot right here, you know, the groove that you're gonna lock it into, there's a slot that only goes this way. There's not one on this side. So stick it in, make sure it's in place, and we're gonna start rolling it. Okay, at this point we're gonna double check, make sure there's nothing binding in the cable, it's not caught on something, it's straight, it's in the groove where it's supposed to be. The drum should be almost against this here. And like I said, just snug the cable, and then we're gonna tighten up the little bolts here now. Again, don't go crazy with those or you're just gonna crush the torsion bar and then you're gonna have to go buy a new one. And now we're just gonna come over here and do the other one as well. All right, we're back over here at the one spring that we've got tightened up. And what we're gonna do is we're going to let her back off a little bit here. There we go. All right, everything's holding, it's good. So we're good to move forward and finish off that last spring. So now we've got half of the tension on the garage door right now. All right, I've got my starting point marked. Got my pencil so I can mark how many rotations. And here we go. Okay, now we have the locking bolts tightened down. We're going to relieve this spring, and there she goes. All right, so everything should be done here. Let's test the door out. Now, when you go to lift it up, don't just let go, because we just tightened up a spring. We don't know how it's gonna react to your exact door. It may be a little bit on the tight side. So yeah, just don't lift it up, because it might just fling and shoot open. Okay, from here, let's see what if I let go. Yep. Looks like that garage door opener is gonna have more trouble closing it than it is opening it. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing, that it wants to lift itself up a little bit right now. Now it's not so strong it's trying to lift you up off the ground, okay? If it's doing that, then you're way too tight and you wanna, back it off, maybe a half turn or a whole turn and see where it's at there. But it has a good amount of lift right now. This spring is going to break in over the next 2 months, okay? It's going to loosen up a little bit, and that's what I'm going to reevaluate to see how strong it is. So I think right there, I think I'm going to stay right there. And we'll just see in 2 months if I need to back it off a little bit or if it's good to go. Other than that, here we go. You know, I'll be honest, myself, the first time I thought about replacing these springs on this, I thought, well, that's a freaky job. You know, I don't want the garage door to like be like going up sideways and falling off the tracks and stuff like that. But I hope that I took you guys through a step-by-step process that makes someone who's a little more on the brave side, who has a decent skill. This should not be attempted by some beginner, someone who can't do basic DIY projects, okay? So if you're at least a mid-level DIYer, you can probably handle this project at home and save yourself at least $100 on the install. Anyways, thanks again. Please subscribe to my channel, check out the website. Here's another video for you to watch.